There are plants that survive without being planted, that feed without being farmed, that bloom without permission, in darkness, in heat, in soil that would kill everything else around them. The world did not discover this fruit, it remembered it, slowly, reluctantly, and only after it had already been repackaged, rebranded, and placed under bright supermarket lights with a price tag that would have been unthinkable to the people who first carried it across mountains. This is not a story about a trend. It is a story about something that was here long before the trend, long before the smoothie bowls and the wellness industry and the Instagram photographs, long before anyone thought to call it a superfruit, before anyone thought to sell it at all. This channel exists to hold what has been set down, to keep records of what was once known and is now being quietly forgotten. If that matters to you, if the idea that knowledge can disappear troubles you the way it troubles us, then stay. Subscribe to Ancient Food Files, not because we ask for your attention, but because some things should not be watched alone. Now, open the archive. In the highland deserts of what is now Mexico and Central America, before borders existed, before nations drew lines through mountains, there was a cactus that flowered only once. At night, the indigenous Nahua peoples called it pitahaya. The word does not translate cleanly, it carries within it something between reverence and practicality. The recognition that a thing can be both sacred and useful, that beauty and sustenance need not be separated. The flower opened after sunset and closed before dawn. It offered itself to the night, to bats, to moths, to the darkness that most plants refuse, and in return, it produced something extraordinary, a fruit the color of a wound, scaled like something ancient, sweet and cool at its center, speckled with 10,000 seeds no larger than grains of sand. The Nahua did not cultivate it the way Europeans would later understand cultivation. They moved with it. They mapped their migrations partly by where it grew. It was food, yes, but it was also orientation. The pitahaya is, biologically, a cactus of the genus Hylocereus. It grows in conditions that most fruiting plants cannot tolerate: poor soil, extreme heat, minimal water. Its root system is shallow but wide, designed not to dig deep but to catch everything that passes over the surface: rain, dew, morning fog. It does not wait for ideal conditions, it makes use of whatever arrives. The vine can grow 3 meters in a single season. It flowers within 18 months of planting. It produces fruit for up to 30 years without replanting. It asks almost nothing of the land and returns almost everything: nitrogen, ground cover, shade for the soil beneath. It was built, in the precise biological sense, for a world that is inconsistent, for a world that cannot be trusted to deliver what was promised. Spanish records from the 16th century document the fruit with a mixture of curiosity and dismissal. Hernán Cortés' expeditions encountered it across Mesoamerica. Soldiers ate it during marches when other provisions had failed. Early missionaries noted that indigenous communities seemed to suffer less during dry seasons in regions where the cactus grew in abundance. They wrote this down, then they moved on. By the 17th century, Portuguese traders had carried the plant east, to Vietnam, to the Philippines, to the coastal regions of southern China. It adapted without complaint. In Vietnam, where it would eventually become one of the nation's most significant export crops, it thrived in the red volcanic soils of Binh Thuan province. Farmers there would later account for over half of global pitaya production. The fruit had crossed an ocean and taken root in ground it had never touched before. It did not seem to notice the distance. And then, in the places where it had always grown, it began to disappear, not because it failed, because it could not be controlled. The pitahaya grew on a vine that climbed where it wished. It fruited on its own schedule. Its bloom lasted only one night, which made industrial pollination nearly impossible without manual intervention. It bruised easily in transit. Its shelf life was short. Its color varied. Its size was inconsistent. These are not flaws. They are the characteristics of something that evolved outside a system designed for uniformity, a system that requires every fruit to be the same weight, the same color, the same response to the same amount of light on the same day in the same warehouse. The pitahaya was, in the language of industrial agriculture, unmanageable, and what cannot be managed cannot be owned, and what cannot be owned cannot be permitted to remain visible. It did not vanish from the land, it vanished from the record. Modern nutritional science has now confirmed, in careful measured language, what the Nahua understood through centuries of living beside this plant. The pitahaya contains betalains, pigments found in almost no other fruit on earth. With documented anti-inflammatory properties, it is high in prebiotic fiber, feeding the gut microbiome in ways that processed food systematically destroys. Its seeds contain polyunsaturated fatty acids. Its iron content is among the highest of any tropical fruit. Studies published between 2010 and 2023 in journals of food science and clinical nutrition have found consistent correlations between regular consumption and improved metabolic markers in populations with diet-related illness. This is not new knowledge dressed in new clothes. This is old knowledge, finally being written down in a language the modern world agrees to trust. There is something else worth saying, and it is uncomfortable. In parts of Southeast Asia and Latin America, the pitahaya spent decades as a fruit associated with poverty, with scarcity, with the kind of meal you ate when there was nothing else, when economies shifted, when middle classes emerged, when imported foods arrived carrying the prestige of distance, people stopped eating what had kept their grandparents alive. This is not ingratitude, it is the logic of survival applied in the wrong direction. When a food saves you during suffering, sometimes you leave it behind with the suffering. You do not always understand, in the moment of leaving, what you are setting down. Memory is social, forgetting is too. The world is warming, soil is collapsing, aquifers are being drawn down faster than rain can refill them. The food systems built on abundance and stability are beginning to show their architecture, and the architecture is fragile. The pitahaya does not require stable conditions, it requires only what is difficult to destroy: heat, poor soil, and time. It was prepared for this before anyone thought to prepare for it. It has been prepared since before the Nawa named it, since before the night blooming flower opened for the first bat that ever found it in the dark. The knowledge was never lost. It was growing along the roadsides in Vietnam, in the volcanic fields of Nicaragua, in the scrubland of the Sonoran Desert, waiting with the particular patience of things that do not need to be remembered to continue existing. Nature does not require permission to persist, it does not require validation, it does not require a study, a trend, a market, or a moment. It only requires time, and it has always had more of that than we do. If you stayed this close to something this quiet, then you understand what this channel is trying to preserve. Subscribe to Ancient Food Files, not for the algorithm, not for us, for the record, for the archive that nobody else is keeping.